Imagine it is a Tuesday morning, you are sipping coffee in your hoodie and you suddenly realize that $1,000 deposited into your bank account. Not because you worked overtime or sold a side hustle, but because your money went to work for you. Most financial gurus will tell you that you need a 10 million finish line to even think about quitting your job. But they are dead wrong. While everyone else is chasing an impossible dream, $500,000 is actually the mathematical crest of the hill where your assets finally start doing more heavy lifting than your actual body. The reality is that most people are trapped on a financial treadmill, earning decent paychecks that end up looking about as impressive as a gas station sandwich once the government, high interest debt, and status spending have taken their cut. My name is Jonathan P. Harrington. People call me Jonathan, and I spend way too much time analyzing the psychology and mechanics of wealth to figure out why entire generations stay broke despite earning more money than their parents ever did. If you're tired of watching your hard-earned cash disappear into financial black holes disguised as smart purchases, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button, because what I'm about to share could literally save you 30 years of unnecessary grinding. Stick with me until the very end, because I'm going to break down the exact hybrid approach that allows you to stop playing defense with your budget and start playing offense with a portfolio that churns out more cash annually than most people see in their entire careers. Once you understand the math of escape velocity, doing nothing isn't just a dream, it's a legitimate financial strategy. Building wealth is like pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. The beginning is brutal and exhausting, but once you reach the peak, momentum takes over in ways that seem almost magical. Let me take you inside a conversation I had 500 times in my career. Client sits down. Portfolio review. They've got $400,000 to $800,000 saved. And they ask, how much do I need to retire? Industry standard. 4% withdrawal rate. $500,000 at 4% gives you $20,000 per year. About $1,667 monthly. I'd watch their face fall because $1,667 sounds like poverty, not freedom. But here's what that conventional wisdom misses entirely. That 4% rule is designed for people who are going to slowly spend down their money until they die. It's a countdown to zero. Ryan has $500,000 to $20,000. He's 47, exhausted, wants out. I show him the 4% rule, $20,800 per year. He deflates. That's not enough. I need at least $60,000 to maintain my lifestyle. So he stays, burns out further. By 65, he'll have $1.5 million and still won't feel safe because he's conditioned himself to need $100,000 annually. Graham has $485,000. Same age, same burnout. But he asks a different question. What if I never touch the principal? What if I only live off what the money generates? This is the question that changes everything. Take $485,000. Diversified portfolio, index funds, bonds, dividend stocks, boring, conservative, historical average returns, about 8% annually when you smooth out good years and bad. 8% of $485,000 is $38,800 per year, about $3,233 monthly. But here's what makes this different. You're not spending down principal. You're only living off the returns, the growth, the dividends. In good years, when markets return 12% or 15%, your account grows. That growth compounds. Your principal increases, which means your baseline income increases. In bad years, when markets return 3%, you're still generating income. Maybe less, but your expenses are low enough to weather it without touching principal. The $485,000 never disappears. It works, grows during expansions, recovers during downturns, generates income that actually increases over time. Graham understood something Ryan didn't. Wealth isn't about the size of the pile. It's about whether that pile works harder than you do. Ryan is trying to build a pile big enough to slowly spend down, timing it perfectly so he dies right as it hits zero. He's gambling on perfect knowledge of when he'll die and whether markets cooperate. Graham built a machine. The machine generates income. He lives off the income. The machine keeps running. Forever. One approach is a gamble on perfect timing. The other is a structure that outlives him. I remember watching this play out with a client, call him Marcus. He had $720,000 in investments. Age 52, exhausted, wanted out. I ran the numbers, showed him he could generate $57,600 annually without touching principal. His face lit up for exactly 4 seconds. Then he said, but I need $120,000 a year to maintain my lifestyle. Car payments, country club dues, second home at the lake, wine collection, boat maintenance. Marcus is still working. He'll probably work until he's 70. Not because he doesn't have enough money, because he can't imagine living differently. Which brings us to the part that makes this whole thing work or fail. I'm going to tell you something uncomfortable. The problem isn't that you don't have enough money. The problem is you've lost control of what you need. I had two clients, both mid-50s, both with portfolios around $525,000. Both wanted to know if they could stop working. Client A, Michael, lives in a suburb outside a major city. Nice house, 3,200 square feet, still has 12 years left on the mortgage. Monthly payment, $2,800. Leased BMW, $680 monthly. Restaurants, $900 monthly. Golf club, $450. Subscriptions and premium everything, $280. Utilities, insurance, property taxes, $850. Random spending, clothes, gadgets, $600. Monthly burn rate, $6,560. Annually, $78,720. His $525,000 generating 8% annually gives him $42,000. He's short by $36,720 every single year. I told him he couldn't retire yet. He needed to keep working. Maybe in another decade. He accepted it, went back to work. Client B, Sarah, lives in a smaller city. House is paid off, bought it smart, paid it down aggressively, owns it free and clear at 54, no mortgage, drives a 2016 Toyota she bought used for $16,000 cash, no car payment, maintenance, maybe $100 monthly, cooks most meals, enjoys it. Dining out is a treat, not default, $200 monthly, no golf club, basic subscriptions, utilities and insurance on a smaller paid off home, $400 monthly. Everything else, clothes, entertainment, occasional trips, $500 monthly, monthly burn rate, $1,200. Annually, $14,400. Her $525,000 generating 8% gives her $42,000. After expenses, she has $27,600 left over every year. That surplus gets reinvested, compounding her freedom. I told her she could quit tomorrow. She did. 3 years later, her account has grown to $618,000 because she's been reinvesting that surplus. Her monthly passive income is now $4,120. Her expenses are still $1,200. Same starting point. Completely different lives. The wealth gap isn't between people who earn more, it's between people who need less. Michael will work until he's 68. He'll accumulate $1.8 million, and he still won't feel safe because by then, his expenses will have grown to match. The beach house, the nicer car, the lifestyle inflation that creeps in every year. Sarah walked away at 54 with $500,000 and never looked back. Now, I know what you're thinking. But Jonathan, I can't just live on $1,200 a month. That's not realistic for me. Maybe you're right. Your situation might be different. Maybe you're supporting a family. Maybe you have obligations Sarah didn't. But here's the question you need to ask yourself and be brutally honest. How much of your monthly spending is actually making you happier? And how much is just momentum from decisions you made years ago? The $680 car payment. Is that car making you 10 times happier than a $250 payment on a reliable used vehicle? Or did you just get used to upgrading because that's what your peer group does? The $900 monthly on restaurants, are those meals genuinely enhancing your life? Or have you normalized eating out 5 times a week because cooking feels like a chore? The bigger house with the bigger mortgage, are you using all that space or is it half-empty rooms you heat, cool, and pay taxes on just because you could afford it when you bought it? I'm not saying live like a monk. I'm saying most people are spending thousands every month on things that provided a brief spike of happiness years ago and now just drain accounts on autopilot. In my decades inside banking, I watched this trap destroy more financial futures than anything else. Not bad investments, not market crashes, not even reckless spending. Just the slow, steady, socially acceptable accumulation of expenses that people stop questioning because everyone else is doing it too. Ryan leases a new car every 3 years. The payment is just part of life now. He doesn't consider that he could buy a $20,000 used car, drive it 10 years, and redirect that $680 monthly into his freedom fund. Graham bought that $20,000 car. It runs perfectly. He's not embarrassed because he's not trying to impress people who don't care about him. Ryan's boat costs $1,200 monthly, uses it maybe 8 times per summer. Graham rents a boat 3 times per summer for $300 total. No maintenance, storage, or insurance. Same income, same career trajectory. Completely different relationship with money. One is trapped with $600,000. The other is free with $480,000. Buying me freedom, or is it stealing it? Here's what I learned. The person who needs $3,000 monthly is infinitely wealthier than the person who needs $10,000 monthly, regardless of what either has saved. The prison isn't a lack of money. It's an addiction to spending. But even if you nail the income architecture and expense architecture, there's a third piece that determines whether you actually walk away or end up like my client with $680,000 who's still terrified. October 2008, market crashes, portfolios lose 30%, 40%, sometimes 50% overnight. I had 2 clients with almost identical situations. Both had about $480,000. Both had structured lives to live off passive income. Both had expenses around $2,500 monthly. The crash hit. Both portfolios dropped to about $320,000. Client 1, David, panicked, called me 17 times in 3 days, couldn't sleep, checked his account obsessively, started running catastrophic calculations. What if it drops another 30%? What if it never recovers? Within 2 months, he was back at work. Just temporary, just until things stabilize. He's still working. 15 years later, the market recovered. His portfolio is now $890,000, but he can't stop. That fear rewired something. He needs the security of a paycheck even though his investments generate more than enough. Client 2, Jennifer, called me once, asked one question. Over the long term, does the market recover? I said yes. Historically, every major downturn has recovered and gone on to new highs. Might take years, but it happens. She said, okay, I'm not looking at my account for 6 months. And she didn't. Her portfolio generated less during the crash, maybe 4% instead of 8%. She sold some shares at depressed prices to cover expenses, but her overhead was low enough to wait. 6 months later, markets started recovering. By 2012, her portfolio was back above $480,000. By 2015, $620,000. Today, she's 68, portfolio worth $1.1 million, financially independent for 17 years, never went back, traveled through Southeast Asia for 6 months, volunteered with literacy programs for 2 years, wrote a book, learned to paint, same starting point, same crash, completely different outcomes. The difference wasn't in their portfolios, it was in their heads. David built his security around the number in his account. When that number dropped, his security dropped. He couldn't tolerate uncertainty because his identity was wrapped up in that balance. Jennifer built her security around her low overhead and understanding of long-term patterns. The number could fluctuate. That was just noise. What mattered was whether she could cover $2,500 monthly, and even in the worst year, she could. Here's what I learned, watching people navigate this over decades. The technical side of living off passive income is trivially easy. A teenager could learn the math in an afternoon. The psychological side, that's where 90% of people fail. Because living off passive income means accepting uncertainty. It means watching your account fluctuate, sometimes dramatically. Market crashes, political chaos, economic uncertainty, all while you're not earning a paycheck. Ryan can't handle that. He needs the illusion of control from a W-2. He needs to feel like his income is earned and therefore stable, even though his job could disappear in a single layoff. Graham understands that uncertainty is the price of freedom. His account will fluctuate, some years will be tight, but his expenses are so low and his time horizon is so long that short-term volatility is just part of the deal. The question isn't whether markets will be volatile. They will be. The question is whether you've built a psychological fortress strong enough to weather that volatility without panicking. And here's the secret. It's not about confidence in the market. It's about confidence in your ability to need less. When your monthly expenses are $6,000, a market drop feels catastrophic because you're burning through savings maintaining your lifestyle. When your expenses are $2,200, a market drop feels manageable because you have room to adjust, room to wait, room to let things recover. The fortress isn't built with more money, it's built with less need. Every subscription you cancel, every impulse purchase you skip, every time you choose the paid-off car over the new lease. You're not just saving money, you're building psychological resilience. You're proving to yourself that you can be happy with less, that your identity isn't wrapped up in impressing people who don't care. That freedom matters more than temporary dopamine from buying things you don't need. That's the fortress. And without it, no amount of money will ever feel like enough. Here's what nobody tells you about crossing that threshold. You don't suddenly feel different. There's no magical transformation, no wave of relief that makes everything clear. What happens is quieter, more profound. You wake up one morning and you realize you don't have to check email. You don't have to attend a meeting you don't care about. You don't have to spend 8 hours doing work that doesn't matter. Not because you hit some magical number, but because you built architecture that works without you. Ryan is chasing a feeling. He thinks if he gets to $1 million or $2 million, he'll finally feel safe enough to stop. But the goalpost keeps moving because he's trying to solve a psychological problem with a mathematical solution. Graham stopped chasing feelings and started building systems. Income architecture that generates money while he sleeps. Expense architecture that keeps overhead low. Psychological architecture that allows him to tolerate uncertainty. The result? He's been free for 6 years while Ryan is still grinding, still checking his account, still telling himself, just a few more years. This isn't about the money. It never was. It's about whether you can let go of the identity society handed you, that your worth is measured by your income, your car, your house, your ability to outspend neighbors, and build a new identity around freedom, intention, and control over your own time. The people who achieve financial independence aren't the ones who accumulate the most. They're the ones who need the least. That client I mentioned at the beginning, the one who looked at $511,847 and asked, now what? I sent him this framework. He's planning now, paid off his car, canceled subscriptions, reduced his burn rate from $5,200 to $3,100. Within 18 months, he'll have $625,000. At 8% returns, that's $50,000 annually. His expenses will be $37,200. He's walking away at 48, not because he accumulated millions, because he built architecture. That's the difference between having money and being free. I'm Jonathan. Figure out your number, build the architecture, walk away.